My dear student, today's our topic is IC engine. It is, popularly known as internal combustion engine. So basically, this type of engine we are already known of. We see a different, uh, uses of this type of engine. Basically, this type of engine are where the combustion of the fuel, the burning of the fuel happens inside the engine. If I say you an example, you will get very much clear that the motorcycle, has the internal combustion engine, or even the car, even car, bus, truck, everyone has the internal combustion engine where basically the burning of the fuel, that means the fuel burning, happens inside the engine. So that's why it is known as internal combustion engine, because the combustion, that means the burning of the fuel, takes place inside the engine. And there are separate different parts of this engine we will discuss later. But first of all, we need to understand that what is internal combustion engine and how it works and what types of internal combustion engine. Okay, so basically this type of engine, we already discussed that where the burning of the fuel happens inside the engine. That's why the name comes from internal combustion engine. So for the classification of this IC engine, there are different types where the classification happens. So first of all, if we decide for the types of fuel, that which fuel we will use, then the engine comes mainly. There are different modified engines also in this nowadays, but mainly petrol engine, diesel engine, gas engine. You all know the petrol, diesel, these are the fuels. So according to the type of the fuel used, these are the names of those engine: petrol engine, diesel engine, and the gas engine. Then if we goes for the according to the method of igniting the fuel, that how the ignition, the burning of start, what is the starting point of the burning of the fuel, but by which we start the burning. Okay, according to that method, there are three types. One is spark ignition engine, where spark of the electricity spark is used. One is compression ignition engine, where compression is used. Another one is hot spot ignition engine. So there are three types of engine, or all the engines we can categorize according to the method of igniting the fuel, that how we ignite, how we start the burning of the fuel. Then according to the number of stroke, then we'll discuss that what is stroke. So there are 4-stroke cycle engine, there are 2-stroke cycle engine. Yeah, I hope that you all know this type of stroke, that 4-stroke, 3-stroke, 2-stroke, this type of stroke. We'll discuss that what does the stroke basically means and how it is differentiated. So for the example of IC engine, we will first see 4-stroke petrol engine. So which will help us to understand that what is a stroke, what does 4-stroke means, and another one is petrol engine. So that means it will also give us the the operation principle of how the petrol engine also basically works. So we can discuss further on, but I have chosen a video. I have chosen a very special video which will help you to show the operation by action, okay, by the animation. So I will give this video to everyone. So this is basically the title of this video is how the car engine works. So basically this is the petrol engine, and how the petrol engine basically works. The small private car or small vehicle, you know that the small taxi cab, these are petrol engine driven. So that means these engines we can, if we decide study this type of petrol engine, we can also understand that how the basic petrol engine works, and this is also 4-stroke, so we can also understand what does a stroke basically means. Okay, so so before going there on, the 4-stroke means there are 4 steps to the whole operation, my student. There are basically 4 steps the whole operation, completes in the 4 step. And every step there are, some special work. So after 4-stroke or after 4 steps, the step one again repeats. So these type of steps are continuously, repeating. The 4 steps is finished, they can again start from the beginning, then comes to the final 4th step and again starts at the beginning. So this is the repetitive process of this type of uh, engine. So we can see, first of all, you all know that this type of engine are basically, inside the cylinder there are different types of cylinder. There are different numbers of cylinder, and all the cylinders are symmetrical. That means same, symmetrical, or same. So inside the cylinder, a piston basically moves, upside and downside. You will see after a few times, but before going, I'm just giving a small brief discussion that there are different types of, different number of cylinders, and but in every cylinder the operation are same. In every cylinder, my student, the operation are same, and inside the cylinder there is a piston that moves linearly from upside to downside. It moves linearly, and with this linear motion or linear movement, basically the rotational movement of the wheel generates. Okay, so let's start the video. Can you see this video, my student? Can you see this video?
Yes, sir, we see.
Okay, okay. I will give this video after the class, but just I'm showing this video because you can relate more watching this video. You can see that there are in here there are 4 cylinders, and there are 4 pistons moving upside to downside. Okay, so in every cylinder the process is same, the steps are same, they're following the same 4 process. So we'll take one cylinder and we'll discuss the process, and that will, remain same for the other cylinders also. Okay, for one cylinder the process are same for the other cylinders also. Let's start the video. So first of all, this is crankshaft. Let's just, just see the components, the basic components, that how this is built. I will discuss that what is the purpose of the crankshaft. This is crankshaft, which is basically, you know converts the linear motion. That means the piston moves from upside to downside, but we need rotational motion or rotational movement. So this crankshaft converts the linear motion to the rotational motion. You know, because in car or in even the bike, the motorcycle, uh, the piston moves upside and downside. That means linearly, but we need the rotational movement of the wheel. So this crankshaft basically converts the linear motion to the circular motion or the rotational motion. You see that with the crankshaft the piston is connected. The piston is connected, my student. The piston is, let me just draw the line. This is piston. There are 4 pistons here, you can see, and this is crankshaft. So the piston and the crankshaft are basically connected with the piston rod. This is known as piston rod. So this is piston, this is crankshaft, and this is piston rod. So basically this piston is moves this way, upside and downside. But when it is connected with this crankshaft, with the movement of this piston, the crankshaft moves rotationally. You will see the crankshaft moves rotationally. How? You will see from the animation. Let's start the video one more time. So these are the pistons. These are the piston rods. Uh, Basically, I already described you. Okay, these are the valves. There are two types of valve, my student. We will discuss later. There are two types of valve in this petrol engine, or even in the next kind of engine. We will see there are two types of valve. One is inlet valve or intake valve, where something goes inside the engine, and another one is exhaust valve or output valve, where something comes out from the engine. Clear? There are two types of valve. One is inlet valve or intake valve. Another one is exhaust valve. We will see. We'll see everything. We will see. But I'm just giving the brief, description. There are two types of valve. Okay. You see that to run the valve, that when it will be open, when it will be closed, there are some components that is known as camshaft. This everything is the camshaft. Okay, this is like egg structure. This is like egg structure. That one part circular and this is like egg structure. When it basically rotates, the whole rod basically rotates. So when the sharp size comes, the valve becomes open. We will see. Here you can see, my student, the operation of the four-stroke engine. There are four cylinders here operating here, but we will discuss one. So that will help us to understand that what is the operation principle, that what is the working principle of the four-stroke petrol engine. So I already discussed there are four stroke, that means four steps. So there are four strokes. Take those name. First one is the intake stroke. Second one is the compression stroke. Third one is the power stroke, and the fourth one is the exhaust stroke. The first one is the intake, then compression, then power stroke, then exhaust stroke. We'll discuss every stroke one by one. So let's discuss with the single cylinder now. Single cylinder, that will help us. So remember, there are four major some components. One is crankshaft, the piston rod, the piston. There are two types of valve. Another one is camshaft. Camshaft is basically used to open the valve. Okay, it is like egg circular. So when this sharp, you know, it basically rotates. You will see it basically rotates. So when this sharp side comes, the valve becomes open. Okay, when the circular side comes, it remains off. But when the sharp side comes, it pushes the valve and the valve becomes open. So these are the major components of this engine. You see that. So now you can see the cross section of the one cylinder. Okay, on one cylinder, one piston. Here you can see, my student. Now you can see the clear view that this is one valve, this is another valve. Okay, let me change the color. Let me change the color. Let me change to the blue color so they can understand. This is, one valve. This is another valve. This is another valve. This is camshaft basically. What I'm talking about. This is camshaft. You can see that here there is a sharp edge. So when this basically rotates, when this sharp is comes here, so this push the valve in this side. So this becomes open. Am I clear? So there are two types of valve. One is inlet valve. This one is the inlet valve, and this is the exhaust valve. You see that this is the inlet path where something comes inside the cylinder, and this is the outlet path where the exhaust or whatever the things comes outside the cylinder. Okay, so this is the piston which basically moves from upside to downside, and there is another component here will be available, that is a spark plug. Let me start the video so you can see. Okay, this is spark plug, my student. This is spark plug by which basically the burning of the fuel starts. Okay, electric spark which basically starts the burning of the fuel. Okay, with the help it basically starts the ignition, or the burning. Start the burning, the ignition process starts by this spark plug. So these are the major components. So first of all, the first stroke is, my student, the intake stroke. Okay, the first stroke is basically the intake stroke. So what is the intake stroke? In the intake stroke, basically what you see, in the intake stroke, the inlet valve becomes open. And from the outside, the air and fuel mixture, air and fuel mixture, that means we are talking about petrol engine, so the fuel is basically petrol fuel. So air and fuel mixture. Carburetor is another component, that in the carburetor, air and the air from the outside comes inside, and there the petrol is sprayed. So basically it becomes air and petrol mixture. Okay, so this air and fuel mixture comes inside the cylinder. So when it comes inside the cylinder, it pushes back the piston. So the piston moves from here to here. Remember, there are, for the piston there are two sides. One is upside, another one is the downside. So the top side is known as TDC. TDC. You can take the notes. TDC. It is also known as top dead center. TDC. Top dead center. Dead center means from there on you cannot go further. And the bottom side, the downside, is known as BDC. That means bottom dead center. TDC and BDC. Okay, the top's dead center and the bottom dead center. So you can see that in the first stroke, the air fuel mixture comes inside the cylinder, and the piston travels from TDC to BDC. The piston comes from TDC to BDC. This is the first stroke. Let's start the video one more time. So you can see here there are in all the components. So the first stroke, this valve open, the inlet valve becomes open. This inlet valves become open. So air and fuel mixture comes inside the cylinder. Air and fuel comes inside the cylinder. You see that? So when it comes inside the cylinder, that air fuel mixture inside the cylinder, you see that intake valve is open, but the exhaust valve is closed. Because if it is not closed, my student, if this exhaust valve is not closed in this time, this air fuel mixture come inside and it will go to the outside. So it should be closed. It should be closed. The exhaust valve should be closed. So my student, in the intake stroke, the first stroke, the air fuel mixture comes inside the cylinder. Okay, So the cylinder moves from top dead center TDC to BDC. So this is stroke. So now comes to the what does stroke means? Sorry, stroke means the movement of piston. The movement of piston. It can be either from BDC to TDC or top to bottom or bottom to top. Anything. It really doesn't matter that you go and come. That is stroke. The stroke is either you move from top to bottom or bottom to top. Anything happens, that is a stroke. So that means four stroke means the piston will move top to bottom, that is one stroke. Then it will go to bottom to top, that is second stroke. Then it will again come to bottom, third stroke. Then it will again come to top, fourth stroke. So the fourth stroke means there are two, top to bottom movement, and there are two bottom to top movement. That's why it is four stroke. So the stroke means the movement of the piston, my student. The movement of the piston either from top to bottom or from bottom to top. Okay, so let's start the video one more time. Okay, so that is the intake stroke gone. When the piston comes from top to bottom, the stroke is finished, the intake stroke, and already our cylinder is full of air fuel mixture. What does the air fuel? Air and petrol fuel. Okay, so my student, after that the next stroke is the compression stroke. The next stroke is the compression stroke. So what does compression stroke means? The compression stroke is, my student, now this piston will come from bottom to top. It will come from bottom to top, and in this case all the both the inlet and the exhaust, both valves are closed. Both valves are closed in compression stroke. So when it comes, it cannot, the air fuel mixture cannot go outside the cylinder, so it will become compressed. It will become compressed. So you always remember there is an inverse relation between pressure and volume. We all know the PV equals to nRT, the equation PV, proportional to nRT. So where we can see that the pressure and the volume are reverse, you know relation. P equals to 1 by V. That means if the volume is decreased, the pressure will increase, or if the volume will increase, the pressure will decrease. There is an inverse relation. Remember a balloon, remember a air balloon. If you put pressure inside it, the volume of this balloon becomes, small or less. So if you release that pressure, the volume of the balloon becomes bigger. So there is always a inverse relation in pressure and volume. Okay, my student, let me start again. So in the compression stroke, the piston comes from BDC to TDC, that means to the top side. So inside this cylinder, the air and fuel mixture becomes compressed. Compressed means the volume is decreasing. The volume is decreasing, but the pressure is increasing. Remember, the volume is decreasing, but the pressure is increasing. And also, my student, one more thing, from the PV equals to nRT, we can also know that P is directly proportional to the temperature. That means pressure is directly proportional to temperature. So we can also say that pressure is directly proportional to temperature. That means if the pressure increase, the temperature also increase. The temperature also increase. If the pressure increase, the temperature is also increase. Okay, so my student, thing is that when the pressure will increase, the temperature will also increase inside here. Okay, so let's start the video one more time. These are just a brief discussion. So you see that the air and fuel becomes compressed. Okay, and here both the valves are closed. Both the valves are closed. That's the end of the compression stroke, my student. That is the end of the compression stroke. Okay, so and in this case both the valves are closed, and after the compression stroke, my student, here the pressure is high, very high pressure, and also the temperature is also very high here. Remember, because it is compressed, the volume has been decreased, so the pressure is very high and the temperature is very high. So my student, here we know that there is a component known as spark plug. So basically this spark plug makes a spark, gives a spark, so which starts the burning of the fuel. After the compression stroke, the spark plug gives a spark and the burning of the fuel happens because already the temperature is very high. So the burning starts very easily. Okay, so at the end, you see that at the end of the compression stroke, the air fuel mixture is ignited by the spark plug. You see that you just saw the spark. Okay, let me see you the spark one more time. That after compression stroke, the spark plug makes a spark. Okay, so when it makes a spark, my student, when it makes a spark, the burning of the fuel happens. The fuel burning starts. So the fuel burning starts means the heat energy is increasing. A huge amount of heat energy is increasing. So when the huge amount of heat energy increasing, we know that the heat is, if the heat is increasing, the temperature is also increase. The temperature will also increase, and if the temperature is increased, the pressure will also increase so much. The pressure will also increase so much. Okay, so after this pressure gives a huge force to the back side of the piston, so the piston moves from upside to downside. It gives a huge push. It gives a huge push because when the spark happens, a explosion happens inside, the burning of the fuel, because already the temperature is so much, the pressure is so much, so a burning happens, and this makes so much pressure, and it gives a huge push to the piston, so it goes from top side to bottom side. So this is basically power stroke, my student. This is basically power stroke or working stroke, because here in this stroke we get the work from the fuel, because after the fuel burning, it gives the pressure, or it gives the push to the piston. So this is known as power stroke. Okay, let me see the video. You see that the piston goes from top side to bottom side. This is the power stroke, my student. So basically this basically produces the power. Okay, the power stroke. And last is the exhaust stroke, and in this stroke, my student, this exhaust valve opens, and after the burning, whatever the byproducts are available here, the burned gas goes outside the exhaust stroke. This is the exhaust stroke. After the power stroke, the burning gas are basically is pushed outside the engine. So that basically ends the 4-stroke operation of petrol engine. So you can see the overall 4-stroke together. So these 4-stroke basically repeatedly happens after finishing one times to another. Okay, now the question was that you see that the piston moves from upside to downside, that how basically it converts to the rotational movement. You see that the piston is connected to the crankshaft. You see the piston is moving upside to downside, but it is connected with the crankshaft, which is moving rotationally. You see that, which is moving rotationally. You just see the operation, that it is moving rotationally, but the piston is basically moved upside to downside. Okay, so in this way, you know the rotational movement basically generates. Okay, the rotational movement basically generates. So that's how the petrol engine comes to our slide again. So I think that everything is required to discuss about the four stroke petrol engine we already discussed. You see that here there are four stroke, that is, first is intake stroke, compression stroke, then the ignition, spark plug, petrol power stroke, then the exhaust stroke. So these are the four strokes. Okay, and some components. One is cylinder block. Cylinder block is where the cylinders are, case is just like a case cylinder are situated. Okay, then the cylinder head, this is the cover of the cylinder block. This is piston, we already discussed that what is piston. This is piston ring. Piston ring is basically my student used to give the yard tight with the cylinder, because the piston moves inside the cylinder, and the piston rings are covered the piston to give the yard tight. Connecting rod or piston rod, we already see it is connected to a piston to crankshaft. This is crankshaft, which basically moves rotationally and converts the linear motion to the rotational motion. This is spark plug. We already know that the spark plug is gives the spark so that the burning of the fuel basically happens. Injector is basically related to diesel engine. We will discuss the diesel four-stroke diesel engine in the next class. So this is totally depend on the diesel engine. And camshaft, we already discussed. This is used basically for the opening and the closing of the valve. Okay, and flywheel basically is it basically gives a proper rotation. It is a uniform rotation. It is connected with the crankshaft, and here the energy is conserved by mechanically, and it moves with the crankshaft. So even the crankshaft starts to stop, it starts to move with the help of the flywheel. So everything I discussed, the intake stroke, the compression stroke, the power stroke or working stroke, and exhaust stroke, these are discussed and given detail here. And in the next class we will discuss the diesel engine. Then we will discuss their PV diagram, TS diagram. So the petrol engine is also known as Otto engine, because the scientist Otto developed this engine. So this is also known as Otto engine, and it is also known as spark ignition engine. At the very beginning we discussed that there are some parts of engine. This is spark ignition engine, because the spark plug makes the spark and makes it spark ignition engine. So today's example gives us one is the petrol engine, how the petrol engine works. Another one is the four-stroke engine, how the four-stroke engine works, and also how the ignition engine basically works. Okay, so my lecture is finished. Now my student can ask me if there are any question from your side. My dear student, is there a question from your side about this today's lecture?
স্যার
Yes.
স্যার ওইখানে যে স্পার্ক প্লাগ যেটা দেওয়া আছে ওইটা দিয়ে শুধু কি মানে আগুনের ইয়েটা যে আসে নাকি ওইখান থেকে যে ফুয়েল যেটা আসে এটা স্যার ওই সাইড থেকে আসে যে
No,
তো
no, no.
কোনটা দিক থেকে একটু ডিসকাস করলে ভালো হতো এটা নিয়ে।
My student, the spark plug is basically is connected here. It is in just like a battery. It starts with the battery. So when the voltage, the positive and negative terminal is comes, when the voltage is high voltage, so here in the air gap, this becomes ionized. This becomes ionized, and here a spark starts to spark. Okay, have you seen the corona? Have you studied the corona?
Yes, sir.
What is the causes of corona? Because of high voltage. Because of high voltage, the air becomes ionized, isn't it? So
Yes, sir.
we can see the corona. So this is not the exact corona that I'm talking about. It is basically due to high voltage, the air becomes ionized. So here we can see a spark, and in the spark plug or in the petrol engine, when already the compression is strong, the temperature is so high, so even a small spark can start the burning. Okay, so after finishing the compression stroke, the spark plug makes a spark, and then it basically starts the burning of the fuel.
স্যার,
Hmm.
এটা কি মানে আমি যদি এটাকে একটু কল্পনা করি, চিন্তা করি একটা এক্সাম্পলের মতো, স্যার আমাদের যে ছোট ম্যাচ থাকে, ম্যাচের পাশে চাপ দিলে যে এটা থেকে আগুনের ফোলা বের হয়, গ্যাস থেকে ইয়ে হয়, এরকম সেম?
এটা এরকম হতে পারে, একটা স্পার্ক, তোমার একটা স্ফুলিঙ্গ, এটাকে কি বলা, একটা স্ফুলিঙ্গ, আগুনের স্ফুলিঙ্গ, বুঝতে পারছো? এটা একটা জাস্ট তোমাকে কি বলবো, হয় না যে ইলেকট্রিসিটি যে তুমি যদি পজিটিভ নেগেটিভ করো একটা স্পার্ক হয় না, ওইরকম।
বুঝতে পারছি।
ওটা একটা স্পার্ক, জাস্ট হলো তোমাকে আগুনটাকে স্টার্ট করতে হবে। ঠিক আছে, তো যে কোনো জায়গায় একটা তুমি যদি ওইখানে অলরেডি টেম্পারেচার অনেক বেশি থাকে, একটা নর্মাল স্পার্কই ওইখানে তোমার আগুন ধরায় দিতে পারে। কথা বুঝতে পারছো? জাস্ট একটা বেসিক স্পার্ক, ইলেকট্রিক স্পার্ক, যেটা দ্বারা আগুনটাকে স্টার্ট করা হয়, ইগনিশনটাকে স্টার্ট করা হয়। তো স্পার্ক প্লাগের কাজই হলো এরকম ছোট স্পার্ক তৈরি করা। Is there any question from my other students? Okay, if there is no question from your side,
আরেকটা কোশ্চেন আছে স্যার।
yes, tell.
স্যার যদি স্যার ওই যে ফ্লাই হুইল যেটা, এটা একটু এই স্লাইডে যাবেন একটু স্যার।
এটা আব্দুল্লাহ,
স্যার হুইল মানে চাকাটা যেটা ছিল, যেটা ঘূর্ণন মেকানিক্যাল, এটা স্যার আমার কোশ্চেনটা হলো যে স্যার প্রথমত জি স্যার, এইখানে এর আগে যেটা ছিল, যেটা পিস্টনটা অ্যাড করা ছিল, এখানেই রাখেন স্যার। স্যার এখানে
এখানে
নিচের দিকে যাবেন। না স্যার, এটার পরেরটাতে যে ভিডিওতে, জি স্যার এইখানেতে স্যার, একটু
ভিডিও,
পাশে। জি স্যার, ভিডিওর পাশটাতে গেছিলেন স্যার, একটু পরে পরের স্লাইডে স্যার, এটাতে স্যার।
তুমি কি ভিডিওর কথা বলতেছো না স্লাইডের
না
কথা
না,
বলছো?
এখন যে স্লাইড আছে স্যার এটাতেই।
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার ফার্স্ট যেটা ছিল একদম লাস্টে, ডান পাশে যেটা স্যার বড় একটা আছে, তার
এটাই
পাশে
ফ্লাইহুইল।
যেটা স্যার মেকানিক্যাল, যেটা স্যার নাকি রোটেশনাল ফোর্স ইয়েটা তৈরি করে, মেকানিক্যাল যেটা থেকে, ওই পাশটা আমার একটু সমস্যা হচ্ছে স্যার। এই পাশটা স্যার একটু মানে একদিক রকম সেম রোটেশন তৈরি করতেছে কিভাবে?
না, এই যে ফ্লাইহুইলের যেটা কাজ না, আমি তোমাকে বলি, ফ্লাইহুইলটা অনেকটা হলো আমাদের তোমার এনার্জি কনজার্ভ করার মতো। যখন এই ক্র্যাঙ্কশ্যাফটটা কিন্তু রোটেট করে, এইটার এই ফ্লাইহুইলটা অ্যাটাচ করা, একটু খেয়াল করে দেখো, এই ক্র্যাঙ্কশ্যাফটটা আর ফ্লাইহুইলটা হলো অ্যাটাচ করা। সো এই ক্র্যাঙ্কশ্যাফটটা যখন ঘোরে, তখন এই ফ্লাইহুইলটাও ঘোরে। আমার কথা বুঝতে পারছো?
জি স্যার।
এই ফ্লাইহুইলটাও ঘোরে। সো তোমার যদি কখনো এই পিস্টনের মুভমেন্ট বন্ধ হয়ে যায়, কিন্তু কিছুটা মুভমেন্ট কিন্তু এই ফ্লাইহুইল দিতে পারবে। কিরকম আমি তোমাদের বলি, একটা প্রশ্ন আসা উচিত ছিল যে স্যার যে স্টার্টিং এ দেখো যে এই পিস্টনের উপর কিন্তু কাজ করা লাগে, পিস্টন উপর থেকে নিচে আসতেছে বুঝলাম, কিন্তু নিচ থেকে উপরে কিভাবে যাচ্ছে, কোন শক্তিতে যাচ্ছে? ঠিক আছে, থার্ড স্ট্রোকে এসে কিন্তু তোমার ওই ফুয়েলের ধাক্কায় কিন্তু নিচে আসতেছে, ওইটা একটা ধাক্কা দিচ্ছে ফুয়েল, কিন্তু বাকি টাইমটা এই যে আবার যে এক্সস্ট স্ট্রোকে যে পিস্টনকে উপর থেকে নিচে যেতে, নিচ থেকে উপরে যেতে হবে, এটা একটা শক্তি লাগবে না? এই শক্তিটা আমি কোথায়
এখানে
পাবো?
তো সব স্যার, এখন
হ্যাঁ,
তো সবগুলো পিস্টন একসাথে কাজ করতেছে না, একটা উপরে থাকে আর একটা নিচে থাকে,
হ্যাঁ,
তখন তো এমনিতে কাজ করতেছে।
না কিন্তু স্টার্টিং এ এট দ্য ভেরি বিগিনিং তখন তো সব
ও,
পিস্টনই বন্ধ,
জি স্যার।
তখন কি হবে? সো ওই যে আমরা যখন বাইকে একটা কিক দেই শুরুর দিকে, খেয়াল করে দেখছো
জি স্যার।
ওইটা, বা ইভেন আমাদের এখন ইলেকট্রিক যে সেলফ স্টার্টার যেটা, তো ওইটা হলো একটা ছোট ডিসি মোটর থাকে যেটা স্টার্ট করে দেয়। ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু এই ফ্লাই হুইলের কাজ হলো
যে ফ্লাইহুইলটা যখন এটার সাথে মানে কানেক্ট করা থাকে, যখন এই তিনটা মুভমেন্ট হয়, তো আলটিমেটলি এরা তো সবই ফ্লাইহুইলের সাথে কানেক্টেড। সো ফ্লাইহুইলটা যখন, যেহেতু এটা ভারী বস্তু, ঘূর্ণায়মান বস্তু, এটা যখন ঘোরে না, এটা ইউনিফর্মলি ঘোরে। সো যদিও এটা পাওয়ার স্ট্রোকে নিচের দিকে ধাক্কা দেয়, তখন এই ফ্লাইহুইলটাও ঘোরে, কিন্তু ফ্লাইহুইলটা যেহেতু একটু মানে তোমার ভারী বস্তু, এটা তো একটা গতি জড়তা আছে, এটা কিন্তু ইজিলি থামবে না, তাই না? সো এটা ঘুরতে থাকবে। সো এইটা এইটা ঘোরার কারণে কিন্তু পরবর্তী এক্সস্ট স্ট্রোকটা এই ঘোরার মধ্যে হয়ে যাবে, কারণ এটা ঘুরলে কিন্তু এক্সস্ট স্ট্রোক এটা উপরের দিকে উঠবে, ঠিক আছে, আবার নিচের দিকে নামবে, এবং এইটা ঘুরতে ঘুরতে আবার পরবর্তী পাওয়ার স্ট্রোক চলে আসে, সেটা আবার ধাক্কা দেয়, আবার এটা আরেকটু এই ফ্লাইহুইলটা আরো ফোর্স পায়, ঠিক আছে। সো আলটিমেটলি এই ফ্লাইহুইলটার গতি জড়তার কারণে এটা একটা ইউনিফর্মলি এই ফোর স্ট্রোক চলতে থাকে। এবার বুঝতে পারছো?
জি স্যার, বুঝতে
এইটা স্যার, এটা হলো এই ক্র্যাঙ্কশ্যাফটের সাথে কানেক্টেড এই কারণে যে এইটার মুভমেন্টটা, এইটার গতি জড়তাটাকে কাজে লাগিয়ে এই চারটা স্ট্রোককে ইউনিফর্মলি রোটেট করা হয়। ক্লিয়ার?
ইয়েস স্যার।
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, who?
Sir, can you again Eggers house power?
Can I?
Eggers house stroke, sir.
জাস্ট
I'm not getting your question.
Eggers house stroke, sir.
Which stroke?
Eggers house.
Exhaust.
Yes.
Yeah, exhaust. You were talking about egg house. That's why I was confused. It was exhaust stroke. Yes. So should I repeat the exhaust stroke or what?
Yes, sir.
Okay, exhaust stroke is nothing else, my student. It is just the final, that when the the burning of the fuels is finished, when all the fuels have been burned. Okay, so after that, this burned gas we need to leave outside from the engine. So at that time, this piston comes from downside to top side, and this exhaust valve, there is a dedicated exhaust valve available, it becomes open, and from when at that time the inlet valve is closed. So when this piston comes to the upside, so all the burned gas go outside from this engine. You see the animation, so it will be clear.
হ্যালো স্যার।
Yes.
স্যার এখান থেকে কি এটা স্যার কি স্যার কারেন্ট তৈরি করে নাকি স্যার এটা?
এখান থেকে
স্যার এই যে স্যার এই যে এটা আছে স্যার, ফ্ল্যাগটা আছে স্যার, ওটা কি স্যার কারেন্টের জন্য রাখা হয়েছে স্যার ওখান থেকে স্যার?
কোনটা রাখা হয়েছে আমাকে একটু ভালো করে বলো।
স্যার এই পাশ দিয়ে স্যার যে যখন স্যার এটা তেল আসবে স্যার, আর এখানে স্যার কি স্যার উত্তাপ তৈরি হইতেছে স্যার?
হ্যাঁ, ভেতরে।
জি স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, ভেতরে তো অবশ্যই তোমার তাপ তৈরি হবে।
আমি স্যার একটু স্যার পরে আসি স্যার। জি স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, ভেতরে অবশ্যই তোমার তাপ তৈরি হবে, কারণ এই ভেতরে তো তোমার ফুয়েলকে বার্ন করা হয়, তেলকে বা পেট্রোলকে পোড়ানো হয়, তো পেট্রোলকে পোড়ানোকে ভেতরে তো অবশ্যই তাপ উৎপন্ন হবে, সেই তাপের কারণেই পিস্টন তোমার উপর থেকে কি নিচের দিকে।
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you tell me what's the name of these two valves, sir?
The name of these two valve?
Yes, sir.
This is, first one is the inlet valve or intake valve. The second one is the exhaust valve or the outlet valve.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
The name are just by their function. By their function. Is there any question from your side?
No, sir.
Okay, I will give this video, my student. I will give this video to the Google Classroom. There are some audio of this video. You see this video properly, you check the slide properly, I think that you will understand the process very well. Very well. It's not a tough task. Very well. So read the what are the function of this type of components. Read the component function very clearly. Okay, you will definitely understand the 4-stroke petrol engine. Inshallah, in the next class we will discuss the 4-stroke diesel engine. Okay, and we will also discuss what is the difference between the petrol engine and the diesel engine in the next class, inshallah. Okay, that's it for today, and please all my students give your role in the chat box. If you already given, you don't need to give one more time if you already given. Let's I take the roll. Okay. So day after tomorrow we have probably one more class. Day 27. Today's date is date is 16 to 21. Roll is 7, 16, 27, 19, 33, 17, 28, 15, 23, 20, 21, 13, 37. Is there anyone left, my student? Okay, thank you so much, my student. I hope you understand. I am giving these class lectures and video lectures, as soon as possible to your Google Classroom. So you check those video and study properly. So see you in the next time. Okay. Thank you so much.